On this week's episode, we're going to be talking baseball, why we love it, and what can be done to make it the number one sport in the country. Stick around, you'll be glad you did. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jay Wilson Show. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to be invited into your homes, just as it's an honor and a privilege to have you here into mine. Now, today I want to talk to you a lot about baseball. With the World Series just wrapping up and closing the book on another season, I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic. Now, I don't want to talk to you today about specific statistics, the hitting champion, or the Cy Young Award winner, mostly because none of those things were particularly remarkable for my team. But what I do want to talk to you about is the sport in general, because I think that baseball is by far the most universal sport, the most accessible sport, and should be the number one sport in America. And with a few changes, I think it easily can be. I think that baseball can easily crush any other sport out there, including the NFL. But we'll get to that later. What I want to talk to you about is why I love baseball and why I think that everybody else should too. Baseball is universal, and what I mean by that is it can be enjoyed by anyone on any level. Baseball is so simple that 4-year-olds can understand it when they play t-ball. You hit the ball, you run the bases. If you make it back to where you start, you get a point. That's it. And then after a couple of tries, the next team gets to come up and try and see if they can do the same thing. Whoever scores the most runs wins. But when you're 4 years old and you're playing t-ball, it always ends in a tie. Or at least that's what they always told me. So baseball, whether you followed it, whether you know the players, whether you don't know the players, anybody can watch it because everybody understands it. But the deeper you get into the game, the more you watch it, the more you understand the complex strategies. When you use the suicide squeeze, how deep you play your infield, and how far back you play your outfield, all of those little complex things. But you don't have to understand those to love the game. Baseball is a lot like America in that it represents the values that we have. Baseball is the perfect family sport because everybody in the family can understand the game and everybody in this family can love the game for another reason. And it's something that can bring us all together. You know, you go to a ball game, everybody cheers. Everybody cheers at the same things, even if everybody understands it and experiences it differently. Baseball is very personal to me because it's something that I've really enjoyed doing with my family, and it's something that's been a lot very important to me. It's something that, I went to a ball game with my parents for the first time when I was 24 years old. And it's a great childhood memory. I mean, it really is. I mean, that's the sort of deep emotional connection that we have when we go to a ball game. And it's accessible because it's by far the most cost-effective sport for us to go to with our families. If you want to take your kids to a football game, you're looking at 50, 60 bucks a ticket, parking, plus all the extras that go along with it. Every stadium in America has $10 cheap seats on weekdays and, some weekend games for baseball games. Everybody can take a family of 4 to a game for under $100. You really can't go to a football game by yourself for that. So it's cost effective, and once you're in, everybody understands it. And I'll tell you what I mean. This past year, we just had a great season. My team didn't do so well, but that's all right. They'll get them next year. And what happened was Father's Day weekend, I took my family to a game. And it was my mother, my father, myself, my girlfriend, and my sister. Now, my parents had been to a few games and had watched some games on TV, so they understand more than just the basic framework of the game. They're starting to get into the strategy a little bit. And for the most part, it was a pitcher's duel, fairly low scoring, and they understood a lot of that type of strategy, the infield strategy. Even though it was a pitcher's duel, low scoring, there were a lot of base runners, and they sort of understood, how to position the infield for a double play, that type of thing. And they were really excited to point that out. And as an avid baseball fan, I could kind of bounce some strategies off of them, and we went back and forth with it throughout the game. Now, my sister has never been to a baseball game before, has never even watched a baseball game before, had an absolute blast. She loved the music before each player. She loved the atmosphere of the game. The girl that sat behind us and wanted everybody to do the wave for 7 innings, the 7th inning stretch. And she definitely understood the 2 home runs that were hit by our team. So all of those things she just loved. She loved the atmosphere. She loved the game. It's casual. It's relaxed. She didn't have to get real into the strategy because she could understand what was going on the field. And the baseball atmosphere makes it enjoyable for everybody. Now, myself and my girlfriend are fairly avid baseball fans. We've been watching games for a while, so we got into a lot of the specific team things, who they had as the DH, just a lot of the strategy of the game we talked about, which was really cool. So all five of us sat in a row and enjoyed the game and loved the game and loved the atmosphere, but we all loved it for different reasons and we all experienced it in a different way. And that's something that you really don't get with any other sport. It was phenomenal. Now, I think that everybody in America could watch a baseball game and everybody in America could love it, but it's really not all that popular. And that's really sad to me. It's a travesty, it really is. So coming up next, I'm going to go through a couple of quick things that I think that the baseball season could do to make it just as popular, if not more so, than football. As you just heard me explain, I think that baseball is phenomenal. I think that anybody in America can enjoy it, and I think that everybody in America should. But baseball, for some reason, gets crushed by all the other sports. Football is so wildly popular that in the week leading up to the World Series, the Fall Classic, the biggest series of games in the year, all that any of the ESPN, Sports, Fox News, all these different sports outlets were talking about was Brett Favre and his broken ankle and will he and won't he play and the off-field scandal that he was involved in. And the week of the World Series, all anybody could talk about was the Vikings and Randy Moss and Brad Childress and that whole thing, which just goes to show you that minor inner team dynamics within one regular season series in the NFL absolutely blew the World Series out of the water. So we're not even going to try and establish that baseball and football should be the same level of popularity, because right now they're not. But they can be. And I think that there's just, a few minor things that baseball needs to do right now. And if they do them, if they really implement these things, fairly quickly, I think that baseball not only will be as popular as football, I think they crush football. I think that the ease and accessibility of baseball, combined with all the other things that it has going for it, are going to blow football, basketball, hockey. Hockey's pretty much out of it anyway, but I think they're all getting blown out of the water. And here's what I think they need to do fairly quickly. I think that they need to shorten the season to somewhere between 100 and 125 games. The baseball season is 165 games long. 165. I don't know anybody that has an attention span to keep track of 163 games, whatever, 162, 163 games. It's so many games I've lost count. So, you've got like weekday day games in the middle of the summer. You've got weekday night games in the middle of the summer. Baseball, just nobody has an attention span for 162 games. We're too busy. I'm too busy to sit down and pay attention to 162 games. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, baseball. Cut it down to 100 and 125 games, somewhere in there. And shorten your season, not by giving the players more off days, but by cutting basically everything from September 1st through October out. For two reasons. One, nobody wants to sit in a baseball stadium in September and October, let alone the first week of November. You've got teams in New York, Chicago, Detroit, outdoor in Minnesota. Nobody wants to sit at a baseball stadium outdoor in Minnesota in the middle of October. It's just not going to happen. I don't care if it's the World Series or not. I am not sitting outside in Minnesota in October for a baseball game. Like Halloween, sitting outside in Minneapolis. Not going to happen. And the second reason why I picked September 1st as the date is because for the time being, baseball has no business competing with football. As we've just demonstrated, regular season football crushes World Series baseball every day of the week right now. And that's because for right now, baseball is so irrelevant compared to the NFL because nobody watches and nobody cares. And part of that has to do with television contracts and things. You've only got one baseball game that's televised a week, and it's nationally televised, but it's not always your team. Every single local NFL team plays on their local stations every single week, and it's the only game that they play that week. So with my local broadcast, not even having to pay for a cable package TV system, my rabbit ears, I can get my NFL team every single game every single week unless they play on ESPN or on the NFL Network. And even then, those are fairly few and far between, and they're going to be on every single channel of every single bar in America. So it's not a real stretch to imagine that I would have a hard time watching every single team in my local area, every single game, every single year of NFL season. Baseball is hard to find on TV. You've got like Fox Sports local channels and some local deals, but you have to buy cable to get them, and it's kind of a pain. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time searching for my team when NFL, it's just every Sunday, boom, there it is. So they need to stop trying to compete with the NFL. They need to make the games more accessible. They need to get them on more television stations. And that's something that isn't really going to be that easy to do, but they need to find a way to do it. MLB needs to start throwing around some money, and they need to start getting it more on TV locally. They need to start making some deals because people aren't going to watch, all the time. They're not going to want to go to the games all the time if it's not in front of them all the time, which is one of the reasons why football is so popular because it's always on. You turn it on, there it is. You don't have to go searching for it. It falls in your lap. So that's the big thing is that, you can watch every single football game. You can follow every single football game. Baseball, you can never find it. But the other thing, and this is really a big contrasting thing, baseball has no big college arena. They have no big minor league arena. Football is huge because college football is huge. We fall in love with players when they're 18, 19, 20 years old in college, and then we watch the draft and they go to the pros. Same thing with the NBA. Everybody watches March Madness. March Madness is one of the biggest sporting events in the year, and everybody watches it, so everybody knows the players. We follow them all the way through. Nobody's watching minor league baseball. I don't know that many people that have season tickets to the Toledo Mud Hens so that they can fall in love with these young players and then watch them when someday they make the jump. It's just not happening. Baseball needs to find a way to make people love their minor league because the NCAA football is minor league NFL. And NCAA basketball, that's minor league NBA. It's just the Final Four is like the BCS. It's the top level of the minor leagues for the pro sports. They are so big that we love these players before they get through. We just want to watch them that much more when they get to the pro level. So I think that with improved accessibility and getting some sort of a minor league system that we care about, that people actually want to watch, make some minor league brackets or something, baseball can get to be big. Stop trying to compete with football for a few years. Get us to love the young players. We need new, young, exciting players. Football's big because we love them when they're young and new and exciting. Basketball's the same way. Baseball, we need to start falling in love with some new young players. Tim Lincecum is a new young player. I think Tim Lincecum needs to be the face of baseball for the next couple of years. And I think that we need some even newer, younger talent beyond that. I think that if we bring in some really new young talent, get everybody excited about it, get it out in front of the public, families can watch it. It's good family entertainment. Dads can take their sons to ball games. Families can go together. Well, that's all I got for you today. It was great having you here. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us. It was a blast. I enjoyed letting you know what I think, and I can't wait to hear what you think. As always, we're at thejwilsonshow@gmail.com. Send us an email. We're also on Facebook, or you can leave your comments down below. I would love to hear from you. What I want to hear today is your best family baseball story, your best baseball memory, and also what you think baseball can do to be big. If you